Hello everybody, this is Not a Report, and welcome back to the channel. It is now U.S. Central Time, April 9th, 2026, Thursday. Today we are talking about a story so wild, so chilling, and so futuristic that if Hollywood wrote it, people would call it unbelievable. But this is not Hollywood. This is the kind of story that reminds you the real world is often far crazier than fiction. And if even part of this report is true, then the rules of war, surveillance, and privacy are changing right in front of our eyes. So buckle up, we are going straight in. What if hiding no longer works? What if shutting off your radio is not enough? What if erasing your tracks is not enough? What if masking your heat signature is not enough? What if crawling into a cave, burying yourself in the desert, and going completely silent is still not enough? What if the most powerful military on Earth no longer needs to see you to find you? What if it can find the one thing you cannot turn off? Your heartbeat. That is the claim exploding across the military and intelligence world right now, after reports tied to the rescue of a downed American F-15E pilot suggested that the CIA may have used a classified system called Ghost Murmur, a tool allegedly capable of detecting a living human heartbeat from as far as 40 miles away. 40 miles. Not 40 feet. Not 400 yards. 40 miles. That is about 64 kilometers. If that sounds insane, good. It should. Because if this thing is real, we are not talking about some small upgrade to thermal cameras or another drone gadget. We are talking about a leap into a new era of warfare. A battlefield where disappearing may no longer be possible. And that should make every terrorist, every militia commander, every rogue regime, and every enemy of the United States very nervous. Here is why this matters. An American F-15E Strike Eagle goes down near hostile territory. The pilot ejects and survives. But once you hit the ground in enemy territory, survival becomes a race against time. You are alone. You are exposed. You are vulnerable. You do not know whether rescue will reach you before the enemy does. You cannot stand up and wave. You cannot broadcast your position. You cannot run across open ground and hope for the best. That is how people die. Combat search and rescue is one of the hardest missions in warfare for a reason. It is chaos, danger, pressure, and a human life hanging by a thread while hostile forces close in. And in this case, the report suggests that instead of combing the terrain yard by yard, the United States may have used something much more advanced, something colder, something smarter, something that sounds like science fiction but fits perfectly with the American way of war when America is serious. Because here is what weak countries never understand. America does not dominate just because it has bombs, jets, ships, and missiles. America dominates because it sees first, knows first, processes faster, and strikes smarter. That has always been the real American advantage. Not just force, information. Not just courage, precision. Not just power, systems. That is what separates a superpower from a loud dictatorship with a parade. The basic claim is simple. Human hearts generate tiny electromagnetic signals. Normally, those signals are incredibly weak. But the idea here is that advanced quantum magnetometry, combined with extreme signal processing and artificial intelligence, may have made it possible to isolate those life sign signatures at long range under the right conditions. In plain English, that means this. America may now have the ability to find you not because you moved, not because you talked, not because your radio slipped, but because your body is still alive. That is a major leap. And yes, it sounds impossible, but let's be honest. The United States has a long history of making the impossible look real before the public catches up. Stealth sounded impossible. Real-time global surveillance sounded impossible. Precision strikes from half a world away sounded impossible. Then reality happened. That is what unserious people always miss. They laugh at advanced American military capability right up until it starts operating over their heads. Now, even if some of the reporting is exaggerated, even if the media are dressing up a real classified capability with dramatic language, the core signal still matters. Something unusual was used. Something advanced was used. Something beyond normal public understanding appears to have played a role. And that alone matters, because the strategic meaning here is massive. If America can find a downed pilot in hostile terrain by sensing life itself, then the battlefield is changing in a very ugly way for America's enemies. Today, it is a rescue mission. Tomorrow, it could be special forces behind enemy lines. The next day, it could be a terrorist courier hiding in remote terrain. After that, it could be a missile commander convinced he is invisible because he is silent and not moving enough for standard detection. What happens when invisibility stops working? That is the bigger story. For decades, militaries have obsessed over stealth, concealment, electronic silence, camouflage, bunkers, and decoys. All of that still matters. But if a system can identify a living human signature under the right conditions, then the old assumptions begin to crack. And once those assumptions crack, the enemy starts making mistakes. That is real deterrence. Not speeches, not think tank panels, not empty threats on television. Real deterrence is when the other side starts asking one terrifying question. What if they can already see me? That question changes behavior. Now, this is not magic. Conditions matter. Terrain matters. Electromagnetic clutter matters. Thermal contrast matters. A remote desert environment may have created near-ideal conditions for this kind of detection. And that actually makes the story more believable, not less. This was not just about having one amazing tool. It was about having the right tool in the right place at the right time, supported by the right intelligence and the right processing. That is how serious military systems work. America does not win by luck. America wins when it stacks advantages. Technology, terrain, logistics, intelligence, timing, and operational discipline. That combination is deadly. And that is exactly why authoritarian regimes hate the United States so much. Under all their propaganda, they know what they are up against. They are up against a country that, when focused, can fuse engineering, science, warfighting, and national will into something terrifyingly effective. There is also a moral side to this story. If you are an American pilot hearing this, you hear one thing loud and clear. If you go down, we are coming for you. That matters. Morale matters. Trust matters. Confidence matters. A military that knows it will not be abandoned fights differently. That trust is combat power. Meanwhile, America's enemies hear a different message. Do not assume distance will save you. Do not assume darkness will save you. Do not assume silence will save you. Do not assume the desert will save you. That is not just technology. That is psychological warfare. And frankly, good. America's enemies should be nervous. They should worry that American capability is moving faster than their ability to understand it. That fear prevents wars, or at the very least, it makes fools hesitate before they start one. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. China wants to push America out of Asia. Iran wants to bleed America through proxies. Russia wants to wear down the West. Terror groups want to outlast civilized nations. And too many people in the West seem more offended by American strength than by the regimes and killers who make that strength necessary. That mindset is pathetic. Because when the world gets dangerous, when pilots go down, when rescue windows close, when allies panic, and when enemies move, everybody still looks to one country, the United States of America. Not because America is perfect, because America is still the one nation with the reach, the innovation, the military culture, and the strategic infrastructure to do things other nations can barely imagine. That is what this story highlights. It is a reminder that American primacy is not theory. It is the real-world ability to act under pressure, solve impossible problems, and reach farther than the enemy thought possible. And that kind of dominance is not automatic. It has to be built, funded, protected, and defended. It requires seriousness. It requires strength. It requires leaders who understand that hard power still matters. Because the future of war is not getting simpler. It is getting more technical, more hidden, more data-driven, and more ruthless. The side that can detect weak signals first will dominate the side that only knows how to make threats on television. And that future still favors America, if America chooses strength over delusion. So here is the bottom line. If Ghost Murmur is real, then the age of hiding may be ending. If Ghost Murmur is real, then life itself may now be a detectable signature on the modern battlefield. If Ghost Murmur is real, then enemies of the United States need to rethink what safe means. And even if the public version of this story is exaggerated, one fact still stands. America clearly used something advanced, something serious, something that tells the world the next generation of military sensing may already be here. Because in the end, America is still what it has always been at its best. Not the loudest power on earth, but the most capable. Not the angriest, but the most dangerous when pushed. Not the one shouting the most, but the one seeing the farthest. All right, that is it for today. Do you believe the United States can really detect a heartbeat from 40 miles away? Do you think this is a genuine breakthrough, a strategic leak, or media hype wrapped around a real classified capability? And if this technology is real, how much does it change the future of war? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want more hard-hitting analysis on military power, intelligence warfare, national security, and the fight for freedom, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it everywhere. This is NADA Report, and I will see you in the next one.